hear, the voices thrive. Turn on your screens and magic unfold. Listening and hearing the stories untold. Come on, come on, this is your time. No topics too tough, just heed the call. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. In a circle podcast where hearts unite. Sharing our truth, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. With laughter and love, we break down the walls. No topics too tough, just heed the call. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. So join the conversation, let's set the tone. In a circle podcast where love is well known.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Inner Circle Podcast. Today is Tuesday, February 10th, and we are in the month of love. I'm your host, Abe Kamara. And tonight we are discussing love over fear, healing the divide in our community conversations. And just to give you a little background, this is about, the debate that has been taking place in the online forums, about diaspora versus those back home wishing evil on each other and all those stuff. So tonight we're going to be tackling it from that issue. Again, I'm your host, Abe Kamara. I'm here with my man, my neighbor, Titus. Titus, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. It's been a minute. I thought I'd come on tonight and just chill. Didn't know what I was really walking into, but good topic, by the way. It'd be good to kind of dive into that a little bit and have fun with that. Also,
Definitely.
eager to hear from our audience tonight.
Yeah, folks. Obviously, you can contribute to the conversation by putting a comment in the chat or calling our number 952-594-5154. Also, Inner Circle Podcast is a growing community. Follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on X, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are growing. We promise you this year we'll also be on the road, so look up for that. Man, when this whole thing about, I don't know how that conversation started, but I'm not a social media person, but I do be on there because obviously of Inner Circle Podcast, and we're trying to, make sure that we're out there. But I saw this debate going on about, folks back home wishing, like, as you all know, right, there's a lot of ICE activity going on. I mean, obviously Minnesota is the epicenter of all of the activity of ICE going on. And Minnesota, I like to call it the capital of the Liberian diaspora. A lot of Liberians here. So I guess maybe that's what this debate came from about, folks back home wishing that, Liberians could get deported and everybody can be on the same level playing field. You don't have to, you don't have to show up or whatever it is, whatever that debate is. But what's your take on that, man? How did I even get, you're a community person, you're always in the community, but how did that debate even come about? Because I was kind of confused. I said, well, in the midst of everything that's going on, we should be supporting one another. Where did that come from?
I think that's a very interesting one. I like to think that this rift started from way back, actually, from way back. Maybe even we're actually born with the whole Congo Liberian thing, going back there in the native. I think that's where this whole tension started from. It has always been the thing of, and each side has had significant impact, right, to the development and the struggles in Liberia. Liberians who are opportune to leave the country, travel abroad, maybe get exposed to, other sides of life, other ways of life. They see things from a different angle. right? Compared to Liberians, most Liberians who are still back home, will see things from also a different angle. I think trying to bring those different angles together, um, maybe it is the format in which it has been produced or suggested. It has been causing some rift, between diaspora Liberians and local Liberians. But it has always been an interesting discussion, right, between Liberians who are on the ground locally versus Liberians who leave Liberia and travel and come back to want to maybe implement their ideas or just engage local Liberians. So I think this energy, this tension. I'm hearing some feedback. I think
No, you're
this
good.
this
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
tension started way back, man, and for some reason, man, it continues to perpetuate from generation to generation, and now here we are, again, we're facing this again with the whole ICE situation. Diaspora Liberians or Liberians in America going through this situation, and Liberians back home, making some funny statements about it. And people are very sensitive during this time, right? People are very sensitive. So the backdrop that I got from this recent story was some people was just trying to make light of the situation, trying to be funny, right? Trying to make some jokes.
Yeah.
But apparently it was not the time for joke. And that's how this whole thing exploded.
Yeah, I mean, is that because that's why I'm confused, right? In the midst of deportations, I mean, I said the community is going through a lot of stress right now. I mean,
Mhm.
every immigrant in this country, and we have discussed it many times on this show, right? I mean, since this administration came to being, since last year we have been discussing immigration. Every time the administration keeps like stepping it up a notch, stepping up a notch,
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that. And I mean, immigration keep getting intense. Now it's like in the midst of this, right? In the midst of these, I say immigrants are under enormous stress in this country, right? So if you're an immigrant here, whether legal or illegal or whatever view, right? There's a whole negative things towards immigrants, right? That's part of our contributions. I mean, no matter who you are, whether you're a citizen, you are legal, you're here illegal, it's like they are just
Mhm.
taking everyone as criminals. They are just targeting everyone. If you are local to Minnesota here, you know very well that no matter your status, in order to be on the safe side, you are kind of carrying your documents with you, right? So
Yeah.
there's this enormous fear in the community. In the midst of that, to see other people wishing harm, other people, right, say in a form of joke, it doesn't
Yeah.
even make sense to me, right? Is that because that we shouldn't be having that conversation, no matter how you might feel about how Liberians are living. Maybe they are putting certain things in your face, or maybe they feel it better than you. But in the midst of these things, I think the conversation should not even, whether in a form of joke or not, it should not even veer towards that. It should be, gosh, wishing your fellow Liberians love, wishing them, peace, wishing them, oh God, that that you hope they can get through this thing because no one, I don't think anyone should be wishing harm upon their friend, right? It's that even if they deport a Liberian from here, and deport them back to Liberia or Ghana and deport them back to
Yeah.
Ghana, what good is that going to do for you that is there, right? And stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I didn't get the joke and I still don't get the joke.
Yeah.
And I think that's where to me sometimes like conversation like this, we need to watch for we need to see how best our community conversations can be of healing, right? Instead of division, and things like that. I know you say it has been the whole thing has been brewing for generations upon generation. Fine, is that but to come in the midst of this intense crackdown, this I mean, as I said, immigrants are going through enormous every day the administration is like calling immigrants criminals, illegal criminals,
Absolutely.
and stuff like that. So it's like I didn't get a joke, and up to now I don't get a joke. And I don't think it was a place and time for that.
No, I totally agree with you. And I don't think any of us would get the joke, right? Because, as I mentioned earlier, it's a very sensitive time,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everybody here, like you said, even those who are, legal and have all their documents, citizens and everything, we're still in a state of panic when these guys are around.
Yeah.
just because of how the manner in which they've been carrying on these exercises in these cities. I
Hmm.
mean, it's worth being afraid of. Like people are losing their lives. It's not a joke. Like people are actually die in this process. So, and rightly so, folks, immigrants here have the right to be afraid for this. Um, but then again, that's when we know place and time, right? Place and time, when to make certain remarks, when to make light of a situation. It's not funny. The joke was not funny.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could understand why all that stuff kind of blew apart too. Um, Again, maybe the way to where the Liberians in the States responded to it, and harshly, maybe there could have been a better way to respond to it, but I understand the frustration behind the response. So,
Yeah, I mean the one thing, right? If the one thing folks should know, right, is that for those like number one, you have folks that are losing their jobs. Folks are afraid to go to work. You know what I mean, and things like that. Folks are afraid to go to work. Communities are being
yeah,
impacted. Individuals. What I mean, what I said, whether you have legal papers or not, there's a lot of fear in the immigrant community in this country. I mean, all over, right? It's
yeah,
well documented. Maybe perhaps and sometimes that's the frustration, right? To me, I feel like in all of the Liberian platforms out there, or all of the, I think maybe I'll be biased. I think Cycle Podcast is in a unique situation where we try to, bring to you what is not so much factual, right, but what is going on in the diaspora, in a positive way, right? We're
mhm,
trying to drive that positive diaspora energy. What is going here? Who are those making contributions? What are resources that our community can benefit from? Those are the discussions for what we try to have here, right? How the discussion we have that can benefit the community. But I think it's like on our in our online forums, you have all of these bloggers or these platforms. So much negative energy. If it's not Liberian politics, then it's Liberian gossip, it's Liberian, mere
mhm.
woman business, as you like to say. Very colloquial, right? It's just, and then the people going out there cussing one another and things like that. So it's like, I think the way we present ourselves online, that's how to me these conversations come about, because you hardly find anything positive in our online conversations. Whether to our bloggers, our platforms, and things like that. Even our major platform, if like this porn or the other folks are not discussing Liberian politics, they're either discussing marijuana business or maybe cursing one another, or gossiping and things like that. It's just. I think so. I think that's where this kind of energy come from, because in the midst of what is going on here, we should be educating folks back home, and also we should be educating folks in the community what's going on here, the magnitude of what is going on here, right? People are taking it out of joke, what I mean, and stuff like that. It's just, or maybe like, whether it's through resentment, or jealousy, or fear, or misinformation. It's like, I think like everything sometimes, like, the whole misinformation piece. Because when you really look at it, right, we don't even have sometimes even accurate information coming to our community. It's all that negative energy, right? Is that we're not bringing resources, where it's in terms of information, in terms of what it is that is benefiting, or what it is that should benefit the community. We are not doing that.
And to add to that, I mean, there are so many platforms, even these entertaining platforms that you're talking about. I mean, in these type of times, imagine if each of those platforms were just giving out information about, resources where people can go. These are numbers that you can call, when you're in trouble, or when these people come to your home, or take you into a holding cell. These are resources that you can reach out to. So, just a lot of opportunities that we have in our community to uplift our community, and to play a major role, besides, again, all of the other things that bring us down. I'm all for the entertainment, right? I'm all for entertainment because people need that, right? Is a balance of life. But the degradation of entertainment and just degrading one another within the community, and I mean, if we're even going towards people's families, we're dragging not just one another now, we're dragging the kids into these things. it's mind boggling. It's mind boggling.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, any other thing that comes to mind, right? What does that say about our community when we are celebrating evil? We are celebrating evil, suffering for one another, right? What does that say about us as a community? What does that say about us? Because these are things that I wondered about, right? Is that in the midst of, as I said, everything that's going on, right? Maybe perhaps they're getting Liberians back home are getting misinformation, or maybe folks in other countries are getting misinformation about the true picture of what is going on when it comes to the immigration thing. Because right is that folks that are living through here in America, right? It is real. It is real because the administration has taken so many steps to crack down immigration, whether legal immigration. Even for the folks back home, I don't know whether they know this, but 75 countries have been banned for what for immigrant visas, right? These
visa.
are all
Yeah,
the immigration thing that has been going on. And to your point earlier, here, where in we had an immigration forum thanks to our girl, our representative Huda Hisley, who kind of organized that, right? Is a representative Huda Hisley, where we gave out accurate information about, we had immigration lawyers on here, we have community folks on here that were relaying what is it, we have community organization folks on here that were actually speaking to the community, right? What are the resources available for those that are stuck indoors? How can folks, call the detention center here at the Whipple building? How can they
yeah.
get in touch with their state government? We did that here. And to your point, all of these platforms could have also done that. Obviously, I mean, we are not, Sago Podcast era. We are not, telling anybody to do that. But I think in the midst of what is going on, it is important that we should be having these kind of discussions rather than, oh, I wish they could get deported. I wish, ICE would come and wreck XYZ. And the other thing too, right? Even I've heard some stories. I don't know whether it's true or not. You hear folks in the diaspora calling ICE, trying to maybe get ICE to, arrest, their fellow immigrants, try to snitch on one another. Right? I'm saying, like, what does that say about us? In
Yeah,
this moment, when
that's
we should be united, when we should be supporting one another, when we should have one voice as an immigrant community, no matter what it is that that have happened to us. What does that say about us, about our psyche?
oh, that's a real low life mentality, especially when we get to the place now where we're trying to call, call these guys to just entrap, other folks that we think are illegal. If you really look at some of these underlying causes, I think, and it is, we are responsible for our own healing, right? Nobody is. With our generation now, and the ones that have left us, right? With all that we've been through in our country, we are responsible for our own healing. I don't think there's any major um, or critical step from our nation when it comes to just healing. Look, that stuff that they did after the war, that disarmament and rehabilitation stuff, that was a half baked thing. That thing didn't even last for more than 2 weeks. Do you know how many Liberians are still suffering from the trauma? How many Liberians still go through those flashbacks? There are a lot of damages that took place with all of the carnages that we experienced. But how long can that be an excuse, right? That's when you take responsibility for your own growth, your own healing. This is what we need to do. Finding excitement in chaos, I think that's a trauma response. You know, Being excited about another person's downfall, or that the feeling of something horrible has happened to a person's life, and you're glad about it. That is a form of trauma response, and this is really happening because a lot of us aren't healed. A lot of us have not taken the time to do the work that's required, to be whole again, to heal in areas that we don't expect. But these things continue to come up every time we find ourselves in those situations. The way we are responding, every time you're triggered about little things, those are, it says a lot about your inner being, and you're in the environment where you have all the opportunities, all the resources. Why not make use of that? If Until we go through those processes, until we do the work, to heal from those things that have broken down pieces within us. I mean, I'm sorry, but our community will most likely be like this for a very long time.
Okay, okay. Well, from a commenter here, good evening, gentlemen. You guys are so right. I might be mistaken, but I haven't seen any other platform being bring critical information to the community like Cycle Podcast. Obviously, we have done a couple of, we have had government officials on here. We have had immigration folks on here, just providing immigration to the
Yeah,
community. And even through our own conversations, right, as panelists, when we come in here, we try to have this. We have since January of last year, we have had immigration. We have been having immigration discussion on this
for
platform
sure.
because
Immigration
it has been
lawyers, everybody. Yeah,
it has been front and center of this administration since it came. But the administration, as I said, I've said it many times on this platform, they ran on immigration. That's one of the top policy. Issue, right? Immigration was one of the top policies that they went on, and so since they came, we have been discussing immigration over and over and over on this platform, right, and things like that. So it's not so for us. It is because we feel the community needs to know what is going on with immigration, what steps the administration is taking, right? What are some of the actions the administration is taking? How are folks being affected? We have had a couple of police chiefs on here,
hmm
explaining their roles about their interactions with immigration and how local police in this entire country into our local with immigration officers or with ICE agents and things like that. So definitely into something that we have done our part. And you don't, right? So the other thing here, where it's like even big national networks, right? That maybe the person is talking about, the spoon, the spoon TV, other guys out there, right, that are bigger than us, obviously, right? They have not even had this
Yeah,
discussion. The focus, and they have a huge audience, right? They have not had the opportunity. They have not taken the time to bring in like immigration lawyers, to bring in experts to talk to the community, or to bring in officials of government that are local to here to talk to the communities of what is going on. It's
just to
just
bring this
lacking, right?
awareness.
It's
Yeah,
just it's just lack of leadership. I mean, even in our own local community here, we have reached out to the O&M leadership so many times. Come and educate the community about what is going on with this situation. Nobody from OLM has ever volunteered to come. You know what I mean? It's like so there's a huge void. And so in the midst of this void, you have negative, negative
yeah.
situations taking over. That's just what it is, right? It's like there's a huge leadership vacuum in the diaspora community, especially when it comes to Liberians here. All of the guys that are in leadership positions here within the Liberian community, they are all focused on getting positions back home in Liberia, which is sad. They are not really providing, especially in these critical times.
Yeah,
Where's the leadership from the diaspora? Where are the diaspora leadership? You don't find it. And so what we have is like these kind of conversations where folks back home wishing that folks get deported or folks here get
Mhm.
arrested by ICE and get deported and fall in trouble, right? So you have that because there's a huge, huge vacuum, leadership vacuum, which is sad.
And that's some of the reason that it's even happening here. Yeah, with even some of the guys who aspire to run for local offices here, due to this lack of leadership within the community. When the people are not seeing anything here, right here,
Mhm.
then you're coming to engage these people now when it's time for elections, right? Within
Mhm.
our local community. I mean, how do you expect these folks to follow up and give you the support that's needed? They don't see you. You say nothing during these critical times. They don't feel your presence. These are times when quote unquote leaders are supposed to be standing up, you know, protecting. But I remember at one point back when TPS Liberians was almost expiring, we went to the Capitol, right? We went and mind you, these other Africans, right, our neighbors, they're always there. They're always engaging. But when it was time for TPS to expire, that's when we started to move. We Liberians, I don't know. There's just something with us. But thankfully, we were part of some of the folks from the community who went to the Capitol, to appeal, and gather so that that stuff to be extended, for Liberians to have a pathway to a better status in this country. These are the things that should be happening frequently, not just when it comes to a time of danger, when something is about to happen abruptly, then everybody want to pull force together. These things should be happening frequently. The community should be conscientized frequently. But where are the leaders? You were only seeing them when it's time for election. When you want to run for a senatorial position in this area or a representative position in this area, you expect Liberians now to rise up and come and support you because you're a Liberian. It's unfortunate because it's not going to happen for most of these guys who are eyeing local politics or local offices in the states.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, man. Folks, tonight we are discussing love over fear, hitting the divide in our community conversations. As you all know, if you are Liberian, if you are online, you have gotten wind of the conversation that has been going on. Where Liberians back home are wishing, are wishing evil, on Liberians here. So back and forth, right? It's just back and forth. They are going at it. Folks are saying, I mean, it's just to me is that as I can't even make sense of that conversation. But that's the background behind the discussion we're having here tonight. Has in the midst of everything that's going on, in the midst of fear in our immigrant communities, why should we even be having such a conversation online? But so you can contribute to the conversation by putting a comment in the chat or call down with number 952-594-5154. But man, this is like maybe this whole thing, as you said, right? Maybe it came in the form of joke. But what we sometimes wonder what role is social media playing in our community discussion these days, right? Social media just amplifying extreme emotions, right? Without any context, is that what it is, right? It's just like you have these extreme emotions sometimes on both sides. My man Peterson and I had a segment on here where it's like the oversharing, on social media, right? The oversharing epidemic.
Yeah.
We had a conversation here regarding that, but it's like in the same token, is social media kind of amplifying, for the lack of a better word, these extreme emotions on both sides, right? Without any context. And so sometimes someone will just see that and get into it and blow it up, without any context to say that. It's like social media making this conversation worse.
Yes, especially when you're sharing a clickbait. You just share a portion of what's happening and boom. And now somebody else is ready to respond. That's
Yeah.
how even this thing escalated with this whole recent thing. Until I think people started going back to find out, or whoever that started the joke had to come back to clarify. And then people started understanding, this all started as a joke. But again, wrong timing, for such a joke. But notwithstanding, understand the context, understanding how it originated, I'm pretty sure, it wouldn't have flared up the way it did. But,
Yeah.
if people just come in and just see the part of the drama that the cousin is going on from on that side and coming back from on this side, they too want to defend, they're picking a side. And they just add, fuel to the fire before they can even understand what's actually going on.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, right? I mean, to your point earlier, right? There's always been the tension, right? Those in the diaspora versus those, back home, right? There's two different realities. Obviously, with social media, as I said earlier, we had an episode on here, the oversharing epidemic. A lot of folks here share, online content about their lifestyle here, about the life they are living, and then folks back home who are not who don't have the opportunity to live similar life. They might be jealous. There might be some resentment there. So there's always been this tension that it is, right? You living back in Liberia versus me living back here. Those are two different realities. I don't even think we should be comparing it, like against one another or trying to even compete. It's not necessary, right? However, we can try to, even in our community conversations, however, we can try to be there for one another, try to encourage one another, try to help one another, try to be positive about our conversations, right? And I think that will help more than this kind of it's us versus them. Because for those that even visit Liberia, it doesn't only stop there, but when you once you get on the ground, right, the same resentment is always lurking around, right? It's like, oh yeah, there's this whole phenomenon now. Every year, Liberians, go back home in droves around December. They are even giving them money December's, right, and things like that. So there's always these kind of tensions. But I don't think we should escalate it to the point where it is becoming so much negativity,
Yeah,
that is just destroying.
almost hateful now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's just. I mean, the hatefulness, the jealousy, the resentment is beyond comprehension to me, right? Because it's a, and even maybe like for us here, even for us here, to me, I've always said that because number one, we pay taxes here, we live our lives here, but sometimes all of our focus is back home. So there's this thing, what I mean? And it's like, so all of that is creating the tension that we are experiencing in our community.
So here's what I've heard on both sides of it.
Mm,
Um, local Liberians in Liberia, local Liberians complaining that diaspora Liberians like to behave as if they're too important, right?
mm,
As if their lives, the Liberians in Liberia, the local Liberians' lives depend on the diaspora Liberians, is
mm,
what I've heard, right? From that end, mostly. To be able to important to do this, and then the diaspora Liberians, and I too have had this experience. We say that hey, you always just want to receive, 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 receive. When people are coming back from Liberia, they'll even say, okay, let me send one small child, Kaya, for this person. You can't do it. So that has been the complaint coming from diaspora Liberians. The Liberians back home just want to receive, receive, receive. How about reciprocating that energy a little bit, right? And so I remember, I think it was probably a year or so ago, some Liberians said, "Hey, this holiday that coming, nobody's asking for anything because we're having our own holiday here. July 4th was here. This other holiday was here. People were coming back from Liberia. Lapa or slippers. It didn't even come in a bag. They say, the other person here that always looking out for me. So by the end of the day, I think there is still time and opportunity to bridge this gap. We're one people. If we sit and talk, we can understand one another more. We can understand the issues that are surrounding, these different emotions that are flaring all around the place,
yeah.
and we can come to a common ground and find an understanding. Um, the government of Liberia has a bigger part to play in this. Like you mentioned earlier, it has become a trend for Liberians from every part of the world going back to Liberia every December, like a major amount, right?
Hmm.
Going back. What is the government of Liberia going to do? Will they see that as an opportunity? Will they seize that opportunity? They have the platform, they have the resources there. They can play a major role in bridging this gap amongst between diaspora and local Liberians.
Okay, okay. Well, so like those from the motherland wishing bad for their own people in the diaspora are doing things out of ignorance. Some of them see these fake lives of people that on social media as reality. Obviously, right? It's like is we have to take social media as out of grain of salt, right? It's like not everything you see on social media you believe it, but obviously some people believe what they see on social media. And right now, right, it is even amplified with AI, right? With AI, right? Is AI has come into the picture where someone might make, I mean, with the help of AI, might make their life so luxurious or so out of or so out of this world, and then you back home and say that, oh gosh, that's a reality. I wish I could be like that person and things like that, right? So obviously, I think there's, I mean, the point of some of the fake things that social media, even the way we portray, or some folks in the diaspora portray their lifestyle. I think it is, it is. I might partially agree here, right? It's probably causing some of the resentment that is going on within, back home, right, for people back here, right, and things like that. So it's crazy. It's very very crazy. But social media has just changed the dynamics of the
Always
way.
very rush and loving.
yeah, it's like of the way we live our life, of the way we have conversation these days. And I think that's where it's important for people. Don't believe everything you see on social media. Some of it might be true. No, honestly, right? Not everything you see on social media that is true or is the reality. You know, dig deeper, dig deeper. You know what I mean, and things like that, right? Because we have become so lazy. I've seen a perfect example. I'll give you an example here. There was this. The Super Bowl just ended, right? Bad Bunny, the performer, he brought a kid. I think he gave his Grammy to a kid. You know what I mean? That looked like the kid I was taken by ice here in
Yeah,
Minnesota.
yeah,
Everybody on social media was saying it was the kid from Minnesota. Come to find out, right? I wasn't the case. The kid that was totally false. The kid was right here, right, with his mom and dad. And that child that was given the stuff by Bad Bunny was a child actor, right? So you have to what, dig deeper, or even like take time out. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
these days
yeah,
we don't even ask questions. We see something and then wow, the comment section just go wow. Oh, you know what I mean? Because everyone want to be in the fights. Everyone want to participate. On like with things like it's the clickbait, right? And that's what's trending. That's what's trending. So you have
yeah.
to. No one is digging deeper these days. Or we have become so lazy in our interactions thanks to social media.
I think we should even touch on that a little more. That's a good way to just segue into that aspect of
Mhm,
the Super Bowl halftime show.
mhm,
Now we're speaking about how love can dominate hate, right?
mhm,
His the Bad Bunny guy, his performance, his halftime show. I thought it was entertaining, right? At the same time, I thought it was very powerful. Though we didn't understand anything that man was saying, it was singing in Spanish, but there were symbols like the one you just talked about. Him doing that with a kid that resembled a kid that went through what we are experiencing here in Minnesota. That was a message. That was a very powerful message to everybody across the world who watched that, right? And so he all through his performance, there was a couple getting married, right? I think it was he projected a lot of basic family values, right?
mhm,
Marriage between a man and a woman, even though I've heard other things about the Bad Bunny artists, but his performance was dominated by a procreational marriage, a family, hard work, their culture, what they bring to America,
mhm,
whether or not the current leader likes it or not, or his supporters,
mhm,
and the way he's going about getting folks out of here who are supposed to be illegal.
mhm.
That performance was powerful. It was, in my opinion, it was beautiful, and yes, I think I was very entertained and touched at the same time.
Well, definitely, definitely. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing love over fear or love over hate, hitting the divide in our community conversations. There's this conversation that has been going around among Liberians in the diaspora and back home. With the whole I search here in Minnesota, which is the capital of the Liberian diaspora, of Liberia in the diaspora, right? Is that with the whole I search, these conversations online is trending, where in Liberians back home are wishing, like folks in the diaspora could be arrested or get in trouble with ICE and get deported. I don't know what is going to come about. Out of that, what benefit, that's going to do for anyone. But that's the discussion we're having here tonight, right? Should we even be having this kind of a conversation online, right? Should our community conversations be about love? Especially we are in February, it's a month of love. Should our community conversation be more about love? I know we always look for, with the online environment we're all living these days, right? Everyone want that clickbait. Everyone wants something that's trending,
Go
but
viral.
yeah, everyone wants something to go viral. Everyone wants to create a content that is out of this world. It's like it's crazy, right? But should we even be having such a conversation in the midst of fear, in the midst of Liberians in the United States living with daily anxiety? As an immigrant, all immigrants here are living with daily anxiety, right? surveillance, right? We are getting surveilled every time, right? It's like, as I said, if you're in Minnesota, I mean, even other folks, right? It is not even talked about a lot, but even places like Texas, right? I read something in the Wall Street Journal, right? Is that there's a huge immigration crackdown going on there, right? Latinos in that state are afraid to go to work, they're afraid to come outside and things like that. So there's huge fear in the immigrant community. In the midst of all of this anxiety, should we even be shouldn't our community conversations, online conversation, be at least about love, about praying for one another, about healing, rather than trying to, wish evil on one another? Should we be having such a conversation, right? And I think that's the disconnect sometimes you have in our community and the misunderstanding, right? Is that because we don't know when to, as you said, we don't know when to have jokes, right? In the midst of everything that's going on, I think every Liberian platform should have been having one of that program, not like daily, right? But at least once a week or once a month.
At least
That
one
is
week.
about that is about what is going on currently in our community. Because anything that happens, we are all being affected. Even folks back home that are being affected.
Yeah.
Imagine when it comes to remittances. How many remittances? If someone here is not working, afraid to go to work, who's going to send you money back home? I mean, if you have family members down there, how are you going to send your family members money? These are the things that we should sit and think twice about, right? That what is going on here is no joke. It's serious. It's serious. So, and it is, I mean, Minnesota right now is the epicenter, but it's going on all over this country. Folks are getting arrested on a daily basis. Folks are getting into trouble on a daily basis. Immigrants in this country are walking a fine line because no one knows what is going to happen. No one knows how things are going to be. So to have a situations where if you are back home and then you're not having any other conversation but wishing Liberians here or the immigrants here, evil, I think it's just beyond the pale.
Yeah. Yeah, that's evil. As evil as ignorance. And you just spoke on the remittances too coming from here. We're
Mhm.
we're we're sending almost $1 billion, so about 800K probably to Liberia on an annual basis. Liberia just probably this year saw $1 billion budget. So over years, remittances alone from the diaspora has been probably more than the annual budget of Liberia. So
Mhm.
for those folks back home who say, "Oh yeah, I'm not I'm not depending on you, or you don't impact me, and I'm not looking for money from you," well, the taxes that are being paid by Liberians, the money that is sent, that impacts you. If you know anything about the economy,
Yeah, the
that
fees. I
influences
mean,
the economy and indirectly impacts you.
yeah, because
And
there are fees being paid on this that I mean that is impacting the local economy. Obviously, yeah.
correct, correct. So again, lack of understanding, lack of empathy, not being sensitive to situations, and maybe diaspora Liberians do the same to Liberians back home. And if that's happening, it also needs to stop because that would be out of ignorance as well. We have to find a common ground here. We're one people. There has to be a bridge here that will connect, the gap that's between Liberians everywhere in the world, not even just in America. You know,
Yeah, yeah, I do agree, right? It's like, how do we, I think it's like, in these times, or how do we find a way to bridge those conversations, right? Because you have two different groups living, two different realities, and things like that.
correct.
I mean, and so we have to find a way to bridge those conversations. Like, okay, my life experiences here is so very, very much different from your life experiences. Right? What I'm going through here is so different from what you're going through here. I might be online flaunting with wealth or or having XYZ, but I know very well your reality down there is different from me. You might be doing similar thing, or you might be living a totally different life, but it's still different, right? It's still different. So our conversations should kind of reflect that, right? It shouldn't be about, oh God, like to your point earlier, framing a harmful conversation as a joke or sarcasm, right? I mean, things like that. I think, I mean, there's a place and time for certain things, and things like that. To your point about the diaspora too, though, the issue I've always had with the diaspora, we are not focused on the communities that I hear enough. And I've said this, and I've said it about OLM. The guys that are running OLM or the EULA or whatever, right? It's like, where are they when you need them? you know, where are these guys when you need them? Because like the focus is not here. So it's just like, it's like, well, when a whole community is leaderless, everybody start fighting among themselves, right? There's no, I mean, you
Yes,
say like, yeah, that you say Liberian government has something to play. I would say those who consider themselves leaders in these communities, leaders in these local communities, or even on a national level, they have a huge role to play.
absolutely.
They have a huge role to play how we conduct ourselves, whether online or in our communities. In a moment like this, they should be reaching out to the community organizing forums, virtual forums. I have not heard about one Liberian organization that have organized a forum where Liberians can come and listen to what is going
Mhm.
on about immigration, or what maybe ODM is doing, or what ULA is doing. I mean, again, thanks to my girl Huda Hisleve, who organized,
Yeah,
folks, came here, and like, again, I said, immigration lawyers, folks from the community, what the resources that were available. And I think nationally, right, folks really, really benefited from that because, the information that was shared, the information that was given, it provided huge benefit to immigrants all over this country. And since then, folks have been reaching out and say, oh God, thanks for doing that, right? I'm representing Isley. Have had some positive, huge feedback. Those are the things leaders should be doing, right? Because the information should be coming from them, coming triggering down, and then eventually it will what? Get get back home. One of them she maybe
yeah,
like call Spoon TV and say, hey man, would like to come up. Can you organize like a community forum? One of them she called Sago Park. I
yeah.
said, no, would like to come. Can you organize like a community forum, virtual community forum? We know right now we are in a moment where folks are afraid to come out, where folks are afraid to leave their home, where there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear in the community. How can we organize a community forum to what? Provide assurance, to the community. None of that is happening.
Yeah, that's that you're on it, Ed. You're on it. That's the lack of leadership. I get discouraged talking about the OLM. It's been a challenge with that group years after years. It's just no leadership. No leadership. What can we do? This is the biggest organization of Liberians, um, probably in the diaspora, because, like you mentioned originally, Minnesota is can be termed as the capital of diaspora. Liberian diaspora. We have
Mm-hmm.
a huge amount of Liberians concentrated in this state, and to have perhaps the biggest Liberian organization not doing anything in these times, I really don't know what they've done. I haven't heard anything. I have not heard anything, honestly. Maybe there is something that they're doing, but for the community to not even be aware on a bigger scale also speaks to the challenges that they're facing, you know. And then that's why we're grateful for platforms like the Inner Circle podcast too. In our week ways, we're able to pull resources, gather resources here within our communities, and dispatch it. Those who are interested. We can only continue to do what we can, Ed, in our weak ways, and hopefully others will follow. We can only do what we can there.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I mean, I think like we need community accountability, right? We need folks to be accountable to the community here because it's like it's this vacuum. I don't know about other communities. Maybe the Ghanaian community, the Ghanaian diaspora community is doing it. Sierra Leone community might be doing it because in the midst of, I mean, it's like you see the Latinos. Despite everything they're going through, they're organizing. The Hmong community are organizing their folks, right, through virtual, I mean, I've had some, Hmong representative on this
Mhm.
platform, I'm getting, I do get a wins of what is going on in our community. You have their representatives, their leaders, the leaders within their community organizing forums, right, assuring them and then making sure they are engaged with the system and bringing those information, bringing those resources back to their community. I mean, it's like, and for us, as I said, it's just this year vacuum. I don't think it's only
I'll
local to.
I'll give you an example of accountability in the Hmong community. When things happen within the Hmong community, I notice firsthand, right? Because I've been, friends, close friends with some of the Hmong folks. When things happen, like between maybe two people or between families, they don't just go and run to the police. They
Yeah.
have leadership that they call. They
Yeah.
have the elders within their communities, within their leadership, that they must take that issue to first. If that is beyond the community, then that leadership will say, okay, we recommend that this be taken to the higher authority. That is leadership in a strange land, keeping one another together, being responsible for one another, and holding one another accountable. How are those type of people going to fail? They will not fail. You know, those are things that we can inculcate within our own communities. But while these might be practiced back home in Liberia, um, I think a lot of Liberians are just waiting for a way to get away from that, to not be held accountable, not be able to answer to anybody, to not have any type of leadership. I don't know, man. Like I said, we need a total overall rehabilitation. We need healing. We need a reset. We really need a reset.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I saw my guest Jacondio here. When it comes to the research thing, I think Cycle Podcast is having a no, not Cycle Podcast. Sorry, my bad. My bad. Cycle, the 401c organization is going to be having a mental health, second annual mental health event, April 18th. Right, those are some of the things I think that organization is doing. Right, it's like bringing. You talk about healing. We'll be reaching out to Matt Dangote, so she can be
Yeah,
part of that. But I agree with you. The community need healing. The community need a total change of mindset. I won't say rehabilitation. I don't want to go that far, right?
just
I don't want
saying.
to go that far. But in terms of the way we think, the way we do things, our mental, we need a mental reset, and that's why I think that's the reason Inner Cycle have decided to have an annual mental health and wellness day, so the community can come together, right, and talk about what does mental health mean to us. How is mental health affecting our community? Because the reason why we're having a conversation, we are having whether online or in person, the reason why this leadership vacuum, because something is not right about our community. Something is not making sense in our community,
It's
right?
not
Something
adding
is
up.
not adding up.
It's not adding
Any
up.
kind of math is not mathing in our
Yeah,
community.
it's not.
And so that's why I think that's why the folks at Cycle decided, man, it is important that there be annually, a mental health event
Yeah,
where you can bring the community, where the community can come together and have a discussion around mental health, because we can't keep pretending that things are right. We can't keep
yes,
acting that everything is okay. Wherein our behavior does not exhibit that.
just the
Not too long
opposite.
ago, you had a situation here in our very own community about Sata and Cody, where folks were saying our, what I
Yeah,
mean, like these conversations are normal. Or you have females going online, cussing one another, right? Exposing, like people, there are new photos, there are new videos online. You wonder, okay, something is just not right in our
dragging each other
community.
kids into
Yeah,
their, yeah. It's
something
not.
is just not
That's not
right in our
normal.
community. It's
That's not
not.
normal.
These are not normal behavior.
They're
And
not.
so I think, to your point, mental health and wellness is definitely needed in our community. And I think that's why, kudos to the Inner Cycle folks, for doing that annually. And what I'm hearing this year is going to be very, very big. The community is going to come out. Thanks. There are a lot of great partners that are going to be, doing that, supporting that initiative. Obviously, once they get everything together, right, the community is going to be informed. But I think something is just not right about our community. Our interactions, our conversation is just way off.
Something isn't right. Can I agree with you more?
Yeah,
Something cannot be right. This is not. This is not normal. This is not
yeah,
normal. I
yeah.
mean, to just misuse and abuse this space, that was given to us by this guy, where and there are a lot of good things happening in other communities with social media. They're doing so much good stuff. Like people are creating events, events that uplift their communities. People are meeting. I mean, businesses are happening. It's just, education. Like, there's so much other positive things that are happening when you go around other, folks from other communities. But we're just abusing this space for all the wrong reasons, man. This is not a normal behavior. It's not. So
Mhm, mhm,
something must be done. We owe it to ourselves, eh? We place ourselves in these spaces and positions to take some of these responsibility to bring awareness to our community. So, I mean, we owe it to ourselves and to our community to keep fostering the change that we're looking for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here we here in Osaka Park, yeah, we are committed to this. We are committed to amplifying immigrant voices, amplifying immigrant stories in a positive way. Highlighting immigrants that are doing well in our community, highlighting immigrants that are making change, highlighting immigrants that are impacting this community, making positive impact. And also like, empowering folks to do better for our community here, right? To what? To do better and just elevating one another. That's what we are committed to here on the Inner Cycle podcast, right? And that's what the conversations we have here, the guests that we bring on here reflect that. You know what I mean, and stuff like that. We won't bring. I mean, I shouldn't say that right here because I'm trying to get you on here as a businesswoman. So that's why I won't say we won't bring controversial person. We're trying to bring
Yeah,
you out on the Cycle podcast, right? As a businesswoman, you know what I
yeah,
mean? On our business segment, right? We're trying to bring
yeah,
on here to say, okay, how does she do it, right? Because it's like that's her business, right? And,
yeah,
and maybe like share her business idea with other folks, things folks can benefit from. Those are the
exactly.
conversation we want to have. We don't want to because number one, the one thing we are committed to here on the Inner Circle Park, we want to build generational wealth. We don't want to be tearing each other down because we believe immigrants are not criminals, right? Whether someone crossed that border illegally, that does not automatically make them a criminal to me personally, because people come here for different reasons, right? Once upon a time, my party, Republican Party, used to be a party of immigrants. No matter how you came here, they welcome you, right? Obviously, we
Mm,
live in a totally different environment where in folks feel immigrants are criminals, but immigrants are not criminals. So if you are back home hearing, oh, immigrants are criminals, they are getting the worst of the worst, and if you buy into that and wish, evil upon your own people, upon your own immigrant brothers and sisters, upon your family, that's just not right.
yeah,
We
you're
should be
just lost.
uplifting.
You're just
Yeah,
lost.
we should be uplifting one another. We should be supporting one another. We should be, no matter where you are, because let's assume if you are wishing someone evil and one day you come here, how will you feel if someone back when wishing you the same thing, right? We
Right.
have to do unto others or treat one another the way we want to be treated. And I think, what I mean, those are the commitment we have here on the Inner Circle podcast. We want to elevate the community. And as I've said it many times, I think we came at the right time where in immigration and immigrants have become the topic of the day, right? It's like the other thing too that have baffled me over the last months, weeks, days, like immigrants are being used on both sides, whether Democrat, Republicans, as a cultural issue,
Mm,
really, as a cultural war. And you
wow.
wonder, really? And things is like, it's like you are dealing with human beings, you are dealing with lives.
Yeah.
And maybe because we are not telling our own story, right? We are depending on maybe the CNN or national media to tell our story.
Yeah.
We are not telling our own stories. And that's why we here in Osago Park, yeah, those that we are committed to amplify the immigrant story. Immigrants are not criminals. You know,
No, no,
immigrants are not criminals. You know what I
not
mean?
at
And stuff
all.
like that. And if you just put everybody in that one bucket, it is missing the mark. You
Definitely,
know.
most definitely.
Mm.
Immigrants, I mean, we cannot say more about immigrants in this country. Immigrants built this place, right? This place was built on the backs of immigrants, free labor. So you cannot come here now and say that, oh yeah, they're criminals. They need to go back to where they're coming from. Well, it's just hate. It's just hate. We've had a history of hate in this country. It's taken a way too much time to go away, and there are eras that will come through where it'll be reignited. then it will fade away a little bit. There's hate in this country. There's this foundation, the foundation of this country has been really marred by some hates, coupled with the struggles of immigrant, the hard work, the free labor that was given to this country by our ancestors. So I don't really understand when folks, extremists, just try to group all immigrants in just one bucket. But Abe, what was your reaction um to Trump's response to that guy's performance, halftime performance? What did you think of it? Did you expect that?
I would say right, and you know, he's my guy. Support him. I voted for him. He's my party. Some of the things sometimes like some places where you don't need controversy. That's where sometimes he bring controversy, or maybe he trying to amplify certain situation that's not even due. Okay, you know what? Certain situations just let it go, right? When it comes to the Super Bowl, is there are a lot of people that have performed at Super Bowl, right? Folks don't like them. Not everyone likes them, right? The Super Bowl halftime show. A lot of folks have performed. Not everyone like their performance, or not everyone agree with them. So sometimes I think, there are certain things, probably there are certain things he shouldn't be getting into. But again, he's the kind of guy he like to be in the fries, right? Folks, folks agree with him on that, and so his reaction is just, to me, I just consider one of those natural things that he always does because he want to be in the center of the conversations. He might be saying this thing, sometimes he doesn't even mean it, right? He just want to, generate the conversations, right? Drive the conversations, right? Because he's quote unquote the leader of the free world, So everything he says, the media take it and run with it and amplify it, you know what I mean, and things like that, right? So do I agree with what he said about Bob? But I'm an immigrant. The dude is not an immigrant. He's from Puerto Rico, but he's not. He's not an immigrant, right? And things like that. Whether he speaks English at a Super Bowl, the one thing I think again, that's where sometimes folks miss the mark. The reason why the NFL selected Bob Bunny to perform, not because maybe he speaks English or doesn't speak English, or it was sort of about capitalism, right?
It's a business move. Yeah.
It's a business move. You got to understand the
Yeah.
context. It's a business move. And then so when certain people try to make it a cultural issue, you are missing the mark. This is not about immigrants or someone speaking Spanish or something like that, right? It's, there are billions of Spanish speaking people in this world. If the NFL can reach them, it's going to make them a multi-trillion dollar or multi-billion
Yes.
dollar organization. So why would the NFL, right, now want to bring a guy who is a global superstar, who is the top streaming artist in the whole world?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would the NFL not want to tap into that?
Yeah.
Understand that context and realize the NFL wasn't doing it because they want to put like Trump, or because they don't love this country and stuff like that. No, the NFL is run by 32 mostly white dudes, billionaires. Just to know what they are doing. I'm not going to sit here to question that judgment. I think they know what they are doing. What they did to bring Bob Bunny to perform the Super Bowl was a business move. The reaction from the president and some folks, you know what I mean, is like, I think it was not necessary. That's how I would say that. That's one of those moments where I feel like, I don't think you should even be involved in such a conversation. Just let it be. Just let it go.
Yeah. Your guy. He's not letting anything go. He has to be out. He has to be out
That's
here. He
it.
has to be in the
That's it.
media.
Yeah,
He
it's
has
there.
to
Right?
be in the media.
He
He's
creates
used to
attention.
that life.
Well, that's what I'm saying here. He said he creates attention. Same things are kind of slowing down him, so that he needs something else to dominate the news cycle. Okay. So Bob Bunny was the one to dominate the news cycle. Yeah. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's like,
To bring him
the
back.
media, the media takes the bait, right, and things like that. No one whether you agree with the performance or not, the Super Bowl halftime show. Some of us don't watch the Super Bowl because I'm supposed to love it. I don't watch the Super Bowl because of the halftime show. Other people watch it because of that. And the NFL trying to tap into that, right? The most females actually watch the Super Bowl because of this halftime show.
Because of halftime show, yeah.
The NFL want to tap into that. There's nothing wrong with that. They were interviewing some folks in Puerto Rico. They said it because, it's like they said none of them ever watched the Super Bowl, but because of Bob Bunny, they all watched the Super Bowl, right? Because they wanted to see him performing. So it was a
Yeah,
business move. Whether you agree with it or not, it was
it
just a business.
was.
Yeah, yeah. So, well,
Sure.
folks, it's a 1 hour show. It's been great having my man Tyler's back since he took a long family
Yeah,
leave or maternity leave. I mean,
yes.
congratulations, man, to you and your family on the
Thank
birth
you.
of your baby. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to the madam. But man, it's a 1 hour show, folks. It's been a good conversation here tonight. We thought to bring this because I think and we believe that whole conversation, we need to what? Change that conversation to be positive, man. You know what I mean? We shouldn't be wishing evil one upon one another. We should be supporting one another. But tell us, man, as we wrap this segment up, what's the message to the community?
I'm grateful being back here again. I think it would take more conversation. Between the community, outside and inside of Liberia. There should be forums, right, that will host folks from Liberia and folks from outside of Liberia in the diaspora.
Maybe we'll
Let's
work, maybe we'll work on something like that. We'll work on something like
Yes,
that. Great idea. That's a
that
great
that
idea.
would be really good. That would be really good. Let's keep talking. What is the issue? Like,
Yeah,
what's the underlying issue here, and how can we address this? I
yeah,
think that will start the conversation, more of that conversation in a more positive light. You know, and it will bring more understanding to our community. So, because the more you understand the issue, the more you're capable of resolving it.
hmm,
So, but we have to keep talking. We have to keep talking and with a mind to understand one another. You know, I think that's
yeah.
how we're gonna
Definitely.
bridge this gap between Liberians everywhere. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
man, it's been. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, 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 go ahead, go ahead. Finish your thought. Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, man, it's been a pleasure, being here and connecting with you and the community through this platform. Inner Circle Podcast is here. Come out here, reach out to us. You have anything positive, anything interesting, business, whatever it is, you're in our community. You're in the Liberian community in Minnesota or any parts of the United States. Your work needs to be highlighted. The social media cannot just be dominated by the negative aspects. You know, our African neighbors, they look at some of our platforms and they think that we're just all about negativity. But I can bet you there are more Liberians that are doing good and positive things than the ones that are on negativity. It's just that we're not highlighting that. It's not being highlighted across the US and across the platforms as the other activities are being. So come out here. We're here. We're available anytime. Reach out to us. The community is looking up to you. You have a lot to share. Come on. This is your community. Be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely, folks. I do agree. I do echo that. Here on the Inner Circle Park, we're not here to judge you, right? We are here to amplify your story. We are here to elevate your story. We are here to empower you, right? To do better in this country, in this great country, right? You know what I mean? Things like that. That's what we are here for, right? And so I do agree with that. And to your other point earlier, I think that whole community conversation you talk about understanding one another, I think that's something Inner Circle Podcast will work on to make that happen,
Agree.
right? To have a community conversations, right? Where folks back home and folks here, what's the issue? What's the beef? I know we had a segment on here about African American versus African. What's the
Every,
beef? Maybe
yeah.
we'll do that. We'll do that with Liberians back home versus Liberian diaspora. What's the
Yeah.
beef, right?
What's the
What's the
beef?
beef? Yeah, so how can we come to one understanding? How can we understand one another? At the end of the day, once the Liberian blood in you or the Ghanaian blood in you or Nigerian blood is always in you. It doesn't go away, right? That's we should always remember those facts, and stuff
True.
like that. And we are all one. We should not be competing against one another negatively. For me, I love competition, but it should be a positive competition.
Constructive. Yeah.
Competition, right?
Yeah.
Constructive competition where we can build up one another. And we are committed to building generational wealth on the Inner Circle Podcast. That's why we have every Wednesday our finance and business segment to bring, finance, business ideas, have those conversations, things like that. So, but man, Tadas, thank you so much for joining tonight, man. It's been a great
For having me.
conversation. Folks, we'll be back here tomorrow with our finance and business segment with my girl, Miss B. And anybody else can join us. There's an open forum. If you got ideas, as my man Tyler said, you want to come and share, you want to come and talk, We are here. We are open. Come and elevate yourself. Come and amplify your voice, your story. The community want to hear from you. Don't sit in the back. Sometimes, like folks like to sit in the back and say, "Oh, there's too much negative in the community. I don't want to come out." But if you don't come out, how's your negativity going to go away,
How we
right?
gonna change the narrative?
Exactly. So folks, come out, man. Don't hide yourself. Come out. But it's been a great show. Thank you so much, and y'all have a good night.
Good night, guys.